Welcome to Trekommendations, the show where a guest helps us find something special from the almost 60 years of Star Trek content. And this week we have an expert in hair, makeup, and photography beaming in. Now, that should be no surprise to anyone who's seen some of her incredible cosplays, the lovely Leah Sci-Fi. Leah,
Hello, thank you
welcome.
so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I will just call you Leah from this point on, but
Please
it's
do.
Leah Sci-Fi. Only when I'm angry, then it'll be Leah Sci-Fi.
Yeah, then you can address me by my second name, but until then, we're friends. Just go with
Yeah,
Leah.
exactly. So Leah, welcome to the show. Now, you know by now this is episode 6. Hopefully, people have started to pick up the rhythm of the show. But I always like to start by asking my guests some calibration questions, just so we can get to know your Star Trek tastes a little bit. So the first question is: if you were serving on a starship, what job would you have?
I'll be Starfleet's first beauty officer.
First beauty officer. I mean, we've seen hairdressers on the
We
Enterprise
have
D.
seen hairdressers, but I just love the idea. I don't know if I should out this because I was going to do it as a TikTok kind of theme thread series, but I just love the idea of being Starfleet's first beauty officer and just like trimming Worf's eyebrows, shining Picard's head every so often. The Borg are coming, but if the lashes are okay,
Yeah.
we'll be
I like
fine.
I like the idea of it being sort of before they go on the screen. Maybe we've received an audio transmission, fine, fine, fine. And then it's like, okay, put them on screen. You're like, well, just before it's a big screen, your head is going to be massive in this screen. So we're just going to do a little touch up before they see you. This is first contact. We want to make sure we make a good impression. That is a job that's the real reason there were free seats on the Enterprise D.
A-
It wasn't for a counselor.
Absolutely. And we're not going to be just HDing by that point. It's going to be like HD. It's going to be everything.
Yeah.
So we're going to need a lot of powder, some full coverage foundation.
You're putting like the anti-shine on on his
Yeah.
head.
I suppose I should give a serious answer. I'd probably be medical. I would
Yeah.
love to be medical. I have absolutely no qualifications in medical other than studying prosthetics because we do a lot of pathology when we're creating things for TV to make sure it's realistic. So, other than very basic pathology training, I have no training at all. But I would love to be a medical officer.
I'm sure you can learn. You can learn. I mean,
There's always time.
it must be easy to learn medicine in the future because there's so many alien species they encounter that they've never met before, and yet, I'll give it a go.
They,
Probably can work
they
out what's
figure
wrong
it
with.
out. Tom Paris winged it for like a whole series. So
Yeah, yeah. And Kess was able to pick it up pretty quickly as well. So I think overall we've understood medicine's pretty easy.
yeah, and she was like 3, so
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how old you are, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume a little bit older than 3. That's just where I'm gonna go with that one.
just,
Just
just
a
a
bit,
little bit.
but not much. But not much. Leah, if you could invite 3 characters from Star Trek to dinner, who would they be?
Ooh, Neelix wouldn't be cooking, first of all.
No, no.
Ooh, interesting. 7,
Yeah,
because I just need to meet 7. Um, Dax, because she would just bring the best conversation and I think the
yeah.
best stories. Ooh, and who would be a good balance? So we've got good stories, we've got logic and fangirling.
Yeah.
I feel like we need a joke teller. Maybe McCoy or Trip. I'm going to go McCoy.
McCoy. Yeah. That's I would love to know how he. So initially, I was curious to know sort of who you would pick, and then your interactions with them. But to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I'm more intrigued to know how McCoy would act in this setting.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
an inspired choice. I love it. I love all 3
yeah,
options.
I think McCoy and Dax would be instant besties. I think they
Yeah,
get along like a house on fire, but Dax just has that ability. And then I think McCoy would just respond to 7 the same way
he does with
He
Spock.
does Spock. Yeah, and I need to see that unfold.
Yeah, I think that's a great. The first two, I was like, yeah, I can see why you picked them, and I felt like McCoy was a bit of a curveball, but I absolutely loved it. So great answers. Um, Here's a question for you, which will kind of bring in some of your talents, I believe. Which alien species do you feel has the best design?
Ooh, I love. Ooh, I love an Andorian. I
Really?
love Andorian design. And I think it's a little bit controversial because obviously in my sector, I talk to a lot of artists, a lot of prosthetic artists, and a lot of people I speak to don't necessarily like the Andorian design. And I think it's because it's so typical vintage sci fi,
Yeah.
but I kind of love it for that. And I think a lot of the time in Star Trek, especially modern Trek, we shy away from silly
Mhm.
aliens or things that are seen as cliche, but aliens are going to come in all shapes and sizes. They're going to be blue, they're going to be all sorts of shades. And I just love that 1960s typical alien feel. I just love it as a design. And when I see that character design, I feel at home. I'm watching old school sci fi.
Yeah. So I try not to reveal too much about myself and my thoughts and feelings on this show. It's meant to be more about the guests, but
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely agree with you. I think the Andorians are great. I also feel they're massively underused, considering how early they were, one of the founding members of the Federation and things like that. Why are we not seeing them on more ships? They should be there. They should be on pretty much every ship. We should have a couple of Andorians floating around. We had one in Prodigy. The first officer for Admiral Janeway was an Andorian, so that was great.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely would love to see more of them on shows, just in the background, first officer,
Absolutely.
captaining a ship. Why not? So that's a
Yeah.
great answer. Love it. And not just because I agree with it. That's not really fair, is it? But I thought it was a good.
At
But I
least we're
thought it
still
was a
on
good
first name
question.
basis. We're getting along. This is fine.
Yes, yes. I haven't had to call you Miss Sci-Fi yet. That's when
No.
we know we're in trouble. Wonderful. Okay, so at this point, Leah, I'm going to don't panic, but I'm going to add the clock to the screen because
Oh no.
we're getting into your personal Trekommendation. So, Leah, my good friend, in 60 seconds or less, could you please tell us your Trekommendation and why you've brought it to the show?
Okay, so my recommendation is the autobiography of Kathryn Janeway, but specifically the audiobook that is voiced by Kate Mulgrew. And the reason I absolutely love this is it builds upon the stories and events that were touched upon in the series. It fleshes that out. But also, my favorite thing about it is you watch the whole of the Star Trek Voyager series and you think, that's it, I'm done. There's no more Voyager for me to consume. And then you play this audiobook, and all of a sudden, it's like magic. There is more Voyager to be explored. And the fact that it's Kate Mulgrew voicing it, it just adds this element of, for me, home, because Voyager, the sounds of Voyager feels like home to me. And hearing that book made me excited about Star Trek again, because it felt like there was more Voyager to be explored. So that is my recommendation.
Incredible. Love it. With mere seconds to spare. What a So I love the choice. I also love that it's an audiobook as well. I love this the layers upon layers of why you bring it to the show. Um, your your reaction of saying, it felt like Voyager again, it felt like Star Trek again. How easily does Kate slip back into that role of Janeway? Because obviously it's been some time for I don't know when the book. Do you know when the book was released? Kind of how big a
I
gap
think
between Voyager ending and this book coming out?
I think as in the audiobook, I think it's quite
Mm.
a recent one. I don't think it's because you've got is it Mirror Mirror? Was that the no, it's not Mirror Mirror. There's another one that Kate voiced quite a while ago,
Mm.
but this one I think is a lot more recent.
Yeah.
And I was interested for the same reason you raised, that I wanted to see how easy it was for her to slip back into character. And it was instant. It was
Yeah.
surprisingly so instant. And I think that's quite a hard thing to do when she's talking about things like playing tennis, growing up at home. They're topics and subjects that in the series we're typically not really used to her talking about.
Mm.
But her talking about that, and it still felt like Captain Janeway. And that's what made it really exciting, because when I was watching the series, particularly growing up, I wanted to know the conversations that happened between the episodes we saw, the day to day, the chats that her and Chakotay would have at the dinner table that we'd just get a little glimpse at every so often when they'd just share stories. And this book feels like a peek behind that curtain.
Yeah. Because obviously recently it was like the Khan series that's just come out. We've got Sulu back, we've got Tuvok back. But I mean, obviously for some of these actors, it's been way longer than others, and they're much older. But it's interesting to kind of hear and listen and be like, do they have the same cadence, the same rhythm when they speak? Because they're actors, so they play different characters. And for some, it's like it feels like they never stepped away. You're like, wow, that close your
Mm.
eyes. Well, you don't have to. You listen to an audiobook. You're right there. You can see them. You can see them on the ship. Um, in other franchises, other things, I've heard kind of actors return to parts, and you're a bit like, this is, this is just a paycheck, right? Like
Mm.
there's no passion in your voice. You're just reading the lines, but you're saying it's not that. This for you transported you. Well, I was gonna say all the way back to the Delta Quadrant. Hopefully not that far, because she's back now, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
at what point is so it's an autobiography, so obviously she's recounting her life story.
mhm.
But when she starts recounting this, like at what phase of her life is she in when she's telling you about her history?
Yeah, so she's back home. It's quite a while afterwards. So it's all written very much in hindsight, and you're hearing her reflecting on all of these events. So it's not like as she's going, it's very
Mm-hmm.
much in hindsight. And I loved that because you got to hear what happened when she got back, which is something we obviously didn't really get an insight into on the show. And there's a particular curveball in there. And if anyone does take up my recommendation, which I do highly recommend, there is a little bit at the end of the book which made me just go, oh, I wouldn't be okay with that. And she's very chilled out about it. So if you do go listen to my recommendation, drop me a message and see if you clock onto the same bit that I did, because there was a bit at the end where I was like, I would not be okay with that. And Janeway's really chilled out about it. So little details like that, I would have never have guessed in a million years would have happened.
All right, hold
But
on.
it's a good
So
insight.
this I've not done before, but I'm going to now. Hold on. I'm literally gonna. It's on Audible, right?
Yeah.
So let's go find it. I'm going to. Okay. All right. So I'm downloading that right now.
Amazing.
Okay. So yeah, here we are. All right. But I'm going to buy it with a credit. Good job. I've got an extra credit there. So I've literally just got it right now. Success. So that. So I've started well, I haven't started, but this is now probably going to be the first one. So I mentioned it recently that I've launched a Patreon that will be coming out, and once a month I'm going to review a Trekommendation. I hadn't
Okay.
decided what it was going to be yet, but now this like hanging thread at the end of, of this book means that probably tomorrow I'm going to listen to this, and then I'm going to have to book someone in to interview me while I review the book. So okay,
I should interview you back after
if you
listening to my recommendation.
if you've got the time, we'll do that. We'll do that.
I'd
Okay.
happily do that.
So yes, I look forward to that. Ah, so I want to ask questions, but I also want to avoid spoilers. Not because I've downloaded the book, but because I'm hoping other
Okay.
people will also get the book and listen to it. Um, First of all, the fact that she reads it, I mean, that's got to be a massive plus, right? Because uh, I was listening to a book the other day. I cannot think what it was now, but it was it was one person who's having to do. It was a Star Trek book. Yes, that's why I was thinking about.
Okay.
So it's a Star Trek book, and it was set like TOS era, and I thought he did a great job, but he's having to do, Scotty, and he's obviously got a very particular way of talking, and then he's doing Sulu, and then he's doing Chekhov, and I'm impressed that you're able to kind of hit all these very different voices, and even when he's having to do like Uhura, it's good, but it's not
Okay.
because he's not doing like impressions. He's just giving the impression when they're speaking that
Yeah.
there's differences in the voice. But the idea of it being, her speaking, it's her voice, it's her story, and you're right. We all know I can hear her voice just now if I think about it because I've heard so much of it over the years. I think it would be jarring to hear somebody else
Mm.
doing like not if it was in a book and it was just lines here and there interspersed with lines from other people, maybe it'd be okay. But the idea of like the whole life story being read by someone else, I think I'd find weird. That's just me.
Yeah. And it's really nice because she's not just narrating it, she's very much narrating it as Janeway. So there's
Yeah.
moments where she's talking and she mentions something funny or sarcastic, and you hear the little chuckle in her voice as she's doing it. And that for me were the things that just really, really kept me engaged. And, when she's talking about Naomi Wildman and the evolution of Seven throughout the journey, and you can just hear the warmth, you can hear the humor, the sadness in those elements, as well as learning more about her character. So I absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
Absolutely adored it. And I was pleasantly surprised because I'm pretty new to audiobooks. I've been quite a stubborn book reader in its physical
Right.
form for quite a while. But there's been a couple of audiobooks and audio plays that I've been really, really keen to listen to. And that was actually one of the first. And I just absolutely fell in love with it.
Oh, so that's what got you in. That's what Star
Mm,
Trek does to people, isn't it? Gets you.
yeah, very much so.
Ha- have you like gone back and rewatched any episodes since listening to the book that has then maybe made you look at the episode in a slightly different way because you feel like you've got, I don't know, context that wasn't there before, or when she does have an argument with somebody, you're thinking, oh, I know how much this must hurt because I kind of know more about their relationship in general, or stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the episodes when she's talking about Mark and her family and her dog, all of that, because it gives you get to know her whole family throughout the whole situation with her fiance, the circumstances in which she left, her career up until that point. So when you watch that first episode, all those early ones, when she's really, really grieving the loss, you feel that so much more because you now have broader context of actually the people that she's leaving behind, and you understand those relationships. And there's moments where you can see she's in turmoil, and there's certain people that she would go to for comfort or advice. So this isn't really a spoiler, but she's very close to her sister, and when she's having to be very serious as captain, her sister is where she'd be silly, where she would
Right.
loosen up and have those fun moments. So you kind of watch it and you can think to yourself, like, oh, she would just love to go sit with her sister or go for a walk with the dog, or you can just see what's behind the eyes a little bit more.
Yeah, because that was introduced very early in Voyager, wasn't it? This idea that the captain has their private dining room. You don't invite the captain to eat with you. They might invite you to come and eat with them. There is that divide between the captain and everybody else. And like in TNG, we saw it, right? Picard wasn't at poker night. That was
No,
Riker, the
yeah.
other officers. There was a divide. But on Voyager, that could not exist because she couldn't, pick up the phone and call another admiral or a captain or anyone like that. It was her and the crew. So
Hmm.
she really had to walk that line, and that's an interesting point, right? Like normally she'd have been able to be like, well, I can be serious captain all the time here, and then I can hang out with my family and I can relax and just let my guard down a bit. Whereas she kind of, for the whole time they were there, could never really let the guard down that much, right? Because at all times you're thinking, yeah, but tomorrow when I have to order this person to do something they don't want to do, like I need them to take me seriously. I need them to respect me. I can't. Yeah, I do wonder if I mean I love Voyager. I'm not gonna. So just I love Voyager. Hold on, before I say anything, I do wonder if in Caretaker, if we'd had a little bit of time with some of the main kind of crew members and their family before they get on the ship and off they go, that would have resonated more. Because I think about it now and I'm
Mm.
like, when I realized they're 70,000 light years from home or whatever, and they can't, it's going to take them 70 years to get back, you're kind of like, cool, great adventure, like wonderful, because you're not thinking about their family, and it's like, oh, but my family's a night. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know who your family are. I don't know
I
about any of
suppose
those
it's
people.
I suppose it's that balance, isn't it? Between, as someone that's worked in film and TV, they probably didn't want to do that because
Yeah,
you're not invested in these characters yet. So actually, you're going to stay around to watch this episode and therefore the series. Like, probably not. They want to go in with
no,
the action and the plot straight away to keep you engaged. But for us as fans, looking back in hindsight, it's like, oh, can we have this? Could we have had that? Because we're already invested, aren't we? So I
yes.
get why they did that. But
Oh,
as
I
a
absolutely
mega
understand why they didn't. Why they didn't give
fan,
us half an hour of them walking around Earth where we live.
yeah.
Like, I don't really need to watch it. That does make sense, but it was just a little thought I had the other day. I was just like, oh, it would have been nice to know a bit more about the family that they miss. Maybe that's just me
Mm,
now in my older age, having a family, being like, oh yeah, I get why being stuck so far away could have been a problem for people. But
yeah.
okay,
And this is why you need to listen to my Trekommendation, because now you'll get that.
I'll get that. At least for Janeway. Well, how much does it explore other members of the crew then? Because I suppose she will talk about them and conversations. Did you learn a lot more about other people as well as Janeway?
Obviously, it's all through her lens. So you learn a little bit more about her perspective of certain
Right.
situations that maybe weren't as thoroughly conveyed in certain episodes. So you learn a little bit more about her bonds. So obviously, Seven's a big one in there. Harry Kim, Chakotay. You hear you hear more about her angle on things and some decisions that she made. You get to hear little bits of information where you think, actually, I didn't necessarily consider that, or I didn't know that was part of her angle in that decision. So you don't learn about other characters, but you learn about how she viewed them through her lens and the decisions she made.
Okay. Well, this does lead to two questions on my part
Okay.
now. And again, I don't necessarily need spoilers, so you can just sort of be like, she addresses it or she doesn't address it, or,
Hmm.
okay.
I
Um,
know what you're going
you,
to ask.
oh, one of the ones I'm going to ask. I'm sure. I'll do the other one first.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned Harry Kim. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I mentioned that I've recently started a rewatch of Voyager, and I and it made me laugh because it was I'm only a few episodes in, and she's having a conversation with Harry Kim, and he's talking about wanting to do something, and she's sort of like, oh, and she says this thing to him of like, as you rise through the ranks, you will realize you cannot, you know, do these kind of things, or you have to, whatever it was. I lost it at that point because this idea of her telling him, don't worry, as you rise through the ranks, as long as you're not on my ship, because here you are an ensign for life. But if you, does she ever address why he never got a promotion?
Not why he didn't. If I remember correctly, she acknowledges that he did promote,
Right.
but not why he didn't whilst there.
Yeah. She's like,
Sorry.
yeah, maybe she'll be like, he did get a promotion. He was a really bad ensign when he began, and he ended as a really good ensign. It was just, there was a long bit in between. Although
Mm.
I saw a post somebody put up the other day, and it was sort of like talking about the different things that happened to him. And then I was like, well, that's probably why he didn't get promoted. This guy was getting, he beamed to another planet where he had to die to come back. He was swapped at one point on with another version of
Maybe
himself.
that's it. Maybe when he was swapped, Janeway made him start again.
Yes,
Like,
back to the bottom of
maybe
the
he was
ladder.
going, yeah, maybe that was it.
We've solved it. We've solved a long mystery here. That's good.
That's it.
Obviously, the other one is going to be
Hmm.
the Tuvix situation. Does she reflect on that at any point?
She does.
Yeah, and
I'm
she
not
doubles
spoiling it.
down. She goes, absolutely, I was right.
It's a reflection on the command decision and how much of a challenge it was for her. So I actually enjoyed that, and obviously it's such an iconic Star Trek moment in general, not just the Star Trek
Yeah.
Voyager moment. That it's nice that they fleshed that out a bit.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for the new like Voyager game that is coming out, because
Hmm.
the only thing people have picked up on on that is the fact that you'll get to make the decision. And everybody I've seen that's talked about that trailer has just been, and look, you're going to be in a position where you get to decide. I'm more
Hmm.
curious if you get to decide just to go home straight away. Like first decision is
Yeah,
don't blow up the caretakers thing. Use the technology. Get home. Job done.
it would be interesting. I mean, the thing that I love about
Bit
it is it
boring
sounds like it's
game,
going to
but
have. The thing that I love about it is it sounds like it's got really good replayability because you can
yes,
make the
you
different
make
decision
difference.
each time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd double
Okay.
down. I might not be able to resist.
Yeah. I love the idea because there's so many different decisions you can make, and every time you can make a different decision. Of course, obviously, you always make the same decision with regards to Tuvix, but every other decision I've made, every different. Yeah, why not? Why not? Okay, I'm assuming that you think she made the right decision then.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Uh, Well, I mean, I understand why she did it. There were two actors that needed jobs, and that would have eliminated one of
And
their jobs.
the thing is I always play Spot Tuvix because the actor who played Tuvix is an extra in so many episodes of Voyager, and I think also in TNG. So even when I'm home alone, I play Spot Tuvix. And like if they had just got rid of Tuvok and Tom Paris and hired the guy who played Tuvix, would that have swapped? Would I have been playing Spot Tom Paris in the background? I quite like playing Spot Tuvix as the extra walks past
Yeah,
people in the corridor. But I can't help myself. Whenever I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, Tuvix.
yeah. Maybe he was there all along. He never left.
Yeah, he never left. He's in the transporter buffers. That's where they normally live.
Yeah, yeah. Surprised we haven't got a duplicate of him. They could have just made another. I don't want to. I don't want to go down
That's
this path
true.
though. But yeah. She no. Once she did it, she just said, "Now delete everything in that transporter buffer. I want it cleared
Erase
out.
him for life.
Reformat the whole thing, just in
The
case."
wife and all.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yes. So she does address that. That's very good. Were there any other? Again, you don't have to spoil anything, but were there any other sort of surprises in there? Things that you kind of really didn't see coming. You mentioned one at the very end, but I suppose looking at the journey that we actually witnessed, that we got to see through
Mhm.
episodes, was there anything that kind of came out that you were like, oh, I didn't realize that, or I hadn't thought about that way, or was it more just adding a bit of flavor to kind of what you already knew, having seen the
It
the show?
it was more so adding a little bit of flavor. The one thing that I was quite taken aback by, and I really liked actually, was getting an insight to modern relationships um, in Star Trek because we see how it happens on the ship, and we see Kirk do Kirk stuff, and we see all of that. But we don't necessarily see how day-to-day relationships work. So when Janeway's talking about her past relationships prior to Voyager, and then what happens kind of afterwards, it's a very very modern. Even like I say, the bit at the end where I'm like, I wouldn't be okay, is to do with that, and it's a very modern outlook. And I think for me it raised quite a few interesting questions about relationships, being a woman. There was lots of questions that it raised for me, and I love that because Trek should always be progressive. It should always make you think, and it felt like a new fresh way of relationships that feels like it would naturally maybe progress that way.
Right.
So I really enjoyed that, looking at relationships through that Star Trek lens.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because that is not what I would. I don't know why I
Mm,
wouldn't expect that to be in the book, but like that's not. If I was thinking, oh, it's going to be, oh yes, probably we'll learn about her the early part of her career before she became the captain, and then it will be what she did when she got home, her career after having been a captain of one ship for such a long period of time, and with such a kind of single-minded focus on what their mission was for all of that time. And now are you just now, okay, we need you to go and scan a nebula over here, and you're like, well, hold on, we've been, that's really weird, right? Or your crew will get reassigned, and suddenly you're like, oh, but I've been with the same crew through all of this. Do you know what I mean?
mhm,
Those kind of things you would expect it to deal with that.
mhm,
But absolutely, if you read any, anybody else's autobiography, you expect to learn about their childhood, their friends, their relationship with their wife, their, you know, husband or partner or whoever. Like that is what usually shows up in these books. So why wouldn't it be the case because it's a fictional character? Like that's sort of,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, I'm interested. Oh, I'll resist pressing play for now. Yeah, that's what I have to resist doing is like listening to it at night and falling asleep and missing it. I will
Oh yeah, don't do
I have
that.
to do it when I'm like, you know, doing the washing up and stuff like that, when I'm really kind of mind can be free to enjoy it. But
Mhm.
that's interesting. Okay. And then you look at
Mm.
relationship, like even in Strange New Worlds, right, where we've had the, you know, this relationship with Pike, and it's sort of you think about, oh, you're dating a captain of another ship and you're being sent off this direction and they're being sent off in that direction, and how does that work, and when do you see each other, and you know, it's, well, our ships might be passing by near each other in 6 months time.
Yeah.
Great. Look forward to that.
And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, when it doesn't present relationships in some new, massively
No.
altered way. And with Janeway, there's always that old school element. You know, she loves the farm and her dog, and there's still that rooted in tradition element there. But there's just quite a few things that are different. I, mm, the rate in which some people move on feels
Right.
different.
Yeah.
Um, and just a few things that are socially in the book are presented as very, very normal. But if Kathryn was my bestie sending me these WhatsApp audios, I would be like, no, why are you so calm? That's not okay.
Yeah.
But it's presented as very normal. So you kind of get the idea of this is how relationships evolve and how humans have evolved. And that's
Okay.
particularly evident at the start and the end of the book.
Right. So the spin-off book I'm now looking forward to is the basically the interchange of messages between you and Captain J, well, Admiral Janeway, whatever she is at this point, where she's sort of saying, "Hey, this has happened," and then we just get your response. Yeah,
Yeah,
she suddenly doesn't
that
care
make
about temporal mechanics and things like that anymore. Like, mess with the timeline, it's absolutely fine. She's like, "I've got a friend. They're living in on Earth 2025, but great advice. I send her messages to let her know what's going on, and these are her replies."
absolutely. I should maybe
Why not?
make that a TikTok series. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I'm glad I've helped you. Glad I've helped you
Thanks.
out. Okay, fascinating. I love it. Yeah, I think I am, as I hope many listening to this are going to be like, okay, that's one for the. When you know, you mentioned it, it's one that I have kind of been, I was aware of. I'd seen it on Audible before, like when I'd scrolled through other Star Trek stuff, so I knew it was there. Um, and it's sort of one I've been waiting for someone to bring on, because I know I've spoken to a lot of people that love Janeway, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure this is coming up," and it hadn't yet. So I was like, "Okay, here we go." So when you said it, I was like, "Right, finally, we're there." And now I don't need to worry that it's coming up again, because I could tell everyone, "Sorry, we've had it.
I got in
We've
there
had
as
one."
quick as I could.
Yes, well done. I mean, episode 6, you did really well. And actually, what's been really nice is this gives me a moment to reflect that we've had. So we're 6 episodes in, and it just, for me, you know, when I kind of came up with this concept of the show of how I'd like it to be, I wasn't, you know, sure it would work, I guess. But I've had now a book that is like a behind the scenes, the making of Star Trek, how it all happened. Um, a content creator of our day as a recommendation. I'm trying to think what the third one was now. I've had, what was number 3? I can't remember. Oh, video game. So a video
Yeah.
game, like another, you know, element of Star Trek that we've had. Then we had a book that was, you know, the specifications and things of the technology and the ships and stuff like that, as if it was all real. So kind of different from the
Hmm.
first book. We've had uh, a company that makes something that's come up now as well. You won't have heard that one yet. And
Okay.
now we've got a book that is sort of a more traditional book, as in a storybook, but it's also not, because it's coming from, it's an autobiography. But I just love that they've been so different. Like, not, you know, it wasn't
Mm,
just, even the books that have been, you know, it's 2 books and an audiobook. They're so different. They're just,
mm,
you know, so but I would guess my final question would be the structure of it. Is it very linear? Is it early life, you know, started like this, went like this, da, 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 so it just follows all the way through, or is it kind of packaged in I'm just thinking of like biographies I've read and how sometimes they kind of package them up in this is my career, this was my family life, and this was this, or it is just I was born, I did this, and now I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm guessing
basically.
it's that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so I know what I'm getting into when I
You
start and what
you
I'll be
know
getting
how
into at the
Janeway
end.
feels about time travel.
Yes.
So
She loves it.
it's just start to finish.
Yeah. Yeah. She hates it. She will not use it until the very end, and then she's more than happy to manipulate it
Yeah.
as much as she wants. I know Janeway. We all know Janeway. Very good. Well, Leah, thank you very much for your recommendation. I have a feeling it's probably going to be a popular one. I'm going to go on a limb and say that, and I look forward to not just listening to myself, but then also reviewing it, being able to reveal what these spoilers are. That's exciting. Very exciting. But Leah, before I let you go back to a life of hair, makeup, and cosplay, we always like to ask our guests if there is an area of the Star Trek universe they have not explored as much as they would like, and if anyone could recommend something for them in that particular part of the Star Trek world. So, is there a recommendation you would like to receive from the audience?
I would. I really want to get into the graphic novels,
Right.
but there are so many. I've started on the books, and I
Yep.
think I know where I'm going with the books, but I really want to look more into graphic novels because I'm not really a graphic novel girly for anything. So I'd love to know a starting place, the good ones. Um, what I would say is obviously Voyager is my favorite, but I love obviously all of them. But anything DS9, Enterprise related in particular, I
Right.
would love to explore further. So if there are any recommendations for really good beginner graphic novels, I would love that.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll look out for that. I will just lean off screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I read this not that long ago, Mirror Broken.
Okay.
And the only reason I bring it up is I think so. This is the mirror universe, but TNG, which we never saw in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sort of I can try and zoom in a bit for you, but these are sort of how it looks. I'm
Oh
thinking,
yeah, it's the uniforms with the ripped shoulders.
I'd like to do it as a cosplay.
Do it. Do
Yeah,
it. You could make those quite easily as well. You could
that's what
just
I
get the
thought. I
top
thought
and
it's
remove
not
the
too
sleeve.
challenging. Well, I have a
Yeah,
black top that was very similar, and I looked at it the other day. I was like, huh. You could modify that pretty easy. You just need the colored sash, the collar, the sash. Anyway, I only mention it to you because of your experience as a cosplayer, so that's why I bring it up.
absolutely
That
do
one
it.
I quite enjoyed. I also read recently. It was again a TNG one, but it was about the Gorn, and I read it, and I thought this is one of the worst things I've ever read. I really did not enjoy it. It was so bad, so I would not recommend that. But
Okay.
yes, but other people maybe know better than me, and they will have a good recommendation for you, I am sure. Now, Leah, if people want to follow your journey, see what you're doing, where is the best place for them to find any of the projects that you've got coming up?
So TikTok is my main platform. So if you have TikTok, if you just search Leah_sci-fi, but I've evolved. I'm now on Facebook and Instagram under the same handle. So if you search Leah Sci-fi anywhere, I'm keeping all platforms updated and I'm doing a lot of preparations ready for Warp One. So there'll be a lot of cosplay content and prep stuff coming very soon for my cosplays for that event.
Excellent. So you'll be at Warp One. So if people are there, they're going to bump into you. Is it going to be a 7 of 9 cosplay at Warp One, or something new, something different? Or
No. So the idea is it's going to be a new one. Fingers crossed. There is a postal strike in Canada at the moment, which is not it's not helping me. But I have something that is in Canada that has been in Canada for about 15 days that I'm hoping arrives in time. And if it does, it will be a brand new cosplay that has been very, very highly requested, more so than any of my 7 of 9s. And it's the first time that I'm ever doing this character. So exciting.
that's exciting. That is exciting. Okay, well, if people weren't already heading over to your TikTok and Instagram, and I love that Facebook is an evolution of that. That sounds strange to me, but
It's
okay.
people The amount
They're
of
back
people I
on.
be at conventions, yeah, they're back on. It's old school, but a lot of Trekkies are over on Facebook, so I made the account.
Wonderful. Well done. Good job. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Leah, for coming on. If you're on TikTok, Instagram, those kind of places, and you're following Leah, while you're there, maybe just quickly jump over to Trekommendations to give us a follow as well. That would be useful. And keep an eye for this potential Patreon episode that might be coming out as well. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, everyone. And I will be back next week with another guest and another Trekommendation.